I'm Hank Patterson, world-renowned fly fishing expert and guide. So, a couple weeks ago, I called a very close, dear friend of mine over at Orvis, Tony, or Tom's, or Tron, I think it's Tron. And anyway, I was like, hey, Tron, you should send me the new Helios 3 fly rod. # send Hank the H3, so that I can review it. And he was like, the Helios 3? And I was like, yeah, the Helios 3. And he's like, the Helios 3? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay. And so then a couple of days ago, guess what finally showed up in my mail? The Orvis Practicaster. It's a little pretend fly rod that you use to teach people how to cast a real fly rod. You know what else you could use to teach people how to cast a real fly rod? A real fly rod. Like the Helios 3. # send Hank the H3. But I get it. You know, I mean, Orvis, they created this Practicaster, and of course they wanted me to review it for obvious reasons, right? Because I am considered in the industry, according to me, to be the world's greatest, most premier fly casting instructor. I mean, look no further than my fly casting videos to experience my visionariness. You want to hear the snap on your forward cast and your back cast, right? Snap, 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 like a bullwhip. So you want to get a nice tight grip on the cork as hard as you can. You want to see white knuckles all across that, and then you're going to wind up and you're going to throw it as hard as you can, like a baseball, right? So you wind up and throw it as hard as you can. So the fish that I'm fishing for right now is about 75 yards that way. How am I going to get it there? I'm going to wind up and I'm going to throw it as hard as I can. One thing you got to think about when you're casting is the wrist, because you want it breaking when you go forward and breaking when you go back. Another thing that'll give you a little bit more power in your casting is vocalization, sort of like a tennis player. If you have trees in your back cast, what you're going to want to do is move. My first impressions of the Practicaster? It's awesome! I love it, right? Because this thing actually feels just like you're casting a real fly rod. Only it's better. It's brilliant. Why? Because finally, someone has developed a fly rod that has absolutely nothing to do with catching a fish. With a real fly rod, you have something that I call false hope. You're out there, you're casting, you think you're going to catch a fish, which you're not. So then, all of a sudden, you're just really super disappointed. It completely ruins the entire casting experience. With the Practicaster, you have a 0% chance of ever catching a fish, which gives the user that unique, true-to-life fly fishing experience. The biggest misconception in all of fly fishing is that it's about catching a fish. It isn't. It's all about casting. It's hours and hours of casting with just a little tiny bit of catching thrown in there every now and then. Think about it. Nobody ever asks, hey, how far can you catch? Or, hey, can you do a roll catch? Or, hey, have you tried a double haul catch? Or, hey, how accurate is your catching? Right? Nobody ever looks at a guy and says, oh man, that guy can really catch. They should actually call it fly casting instead of fishing. Right? And we could all get funny shirts that say stuff like, gone casting, or wishing I was casting, or a bad day of casting is better than a good day of work. I'm not here today reviewing the Practicatcher. I'm here today reviewing the Practicaster. And my review of the Practicaster is simple. I love it. It's awesome.
The Orvis Practicaster. Finally, a fly rod with a 0% chance of catching a fish.